let me explain. Oh, the day I learned French, I recall with delight. I awoke with a start, feeling ever so smart. I learned French overnight, and now just parlez-vous. I learned French through and through. Quand j'ai dit oui, completely, so sweetly, the day I learned French. In a tiny boutique, lingerie from Paris seemed to fit parfaitement in the life of une femme who could parler so free. And it's simply magnifique to discover I could speak like a native, creatively phrasing the day I learned French. It was easy, comme ça, comme si, voilà, voici. J'ai appris, merci beaucoup, s'il vous plaît, alors. Le fait accompli, I looked up at the sky, et j'ai vu le soleil. It was shining so brightly, I knew this would be a spectacular day. And the birdies sang, quee, quee. They were speaking French like me. We were swinging and singing the spring in the day I learned French. You can try this at home if your slumber is deep. You don't need an excursion or total immersion, just drop off to sleep. And as quick as un, deux, trois, you'll be speaking French, voila. It's amazingly, dazingly crazy the way I learned French. It's easy, voici, merci beaucoup, s'il vous plaît, alors, le fait accompli.
Oh, that is so cool. Ah, I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, my guests, Rebecca Kilgore, fondly known as Becky Kilgore, and Tom Wakeling. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Oh, it's great to have you here. Sorry, little technical adjustments. Come on. Okay. Thank you, Dan. Dan was reporting to me how it looked and sounded. Good. Thank God. After yesterday's debacle. Oh, man. Anyway, we're here today and it's all working great and it's a beautiful day inside the house.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful day here inside our house.
We're still in a major heat wave. I mean, this is crazy. It's like over 100 degrees the last few days.
Ugh.
Yeesh.
It's been hot here too. 100 degrees yesterday.
Really?
Hmm.
Wow.
That's rare, yeah.
Yeah, very. So here they are, Rebecca and Tom. I mean, you know, it's so enjoyable to listen and watch that and listen. And everybody, Randy Porter on piano and Dave Tull on drums. And um, Becky, as soon as you start singing, I'm just all ears and I feel joy in my heart. And then, Tom, as soon as you started playing, I'm like, seriously. I said, wow, listen to that bass player. And then I realized, oh, of course, it's Tom. But that was my first reaction, was like, ooh, you know? So that's kind of a compliment, I think.
We'll take it.
Who wrote that song?
I did.
You wrote that song. That is the greatest song.
Well, I have to say I had help from a local songwriter, Ellen Vanderslice. She's very clever. And when I got stuck with the French, I asked for some help, and she filled the gap beautifully. And then Mike Horsfall helped me with some of the chords. So it was a three-way collaboration.
What inspired you to write that?
I actually had a dream one day that I woke up and French fluently. And I love French, and I've studied it, and I speak it fairly well, but not fast. I went to France last fall, and it was clear that I just couldn't keep up. But if everyone would just speak really slow, I could keep up.
But of course, they do not.
No, they do not.
The French do not speak slow. It's funny. Well, it's just such a great idea. It's a real fun idea. I don't think anybody disagrees with me. It's like, yeah, you just go to sleep and wake up.
I sleep with a French book under the pillow and voila.
That's great. So you guys, let's see. Let me just see if there's any of. Yeah, I should just tell you that Joe Rohrbacher said a couple of my favorite musicians and people.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
There
We
are
miss you.
there are other people listening, and you might know them. William Gordon and
Oh, hi, Bill.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Bill.
let's see who else. Elijah Rock, Tanya Coleman, Zane Riva, Steve Dixon, Debbie Oppenheimer, Danny Flahive. Hi.
Daddy, hi.
Annie Well Ferguson and Jay Behel and Camille Snyder
Hi,
and
Camille.
Dan Davila. You may not remember Dan. He was at your concert down here. He's
I remember Dan.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
See that
Is that
Dan?
when we played it? We played it. I think we played it.
The G spot.
Yeah, at that guy's place. What's that guy's name? Alan
Right.
Goldman. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. So yeah, so let me start actually by asking you guys when you started playing together. It's been a while, right?
Oh, yeah, but I don't actually remember the circumstance. Was it at that place? The place on by the freeway in Northwest
Oh,
Portland?
Ivory's,
Ivory's, yeah.
the now defunct Ivory's. That might have been when we started playing more regularly together. Yeah, I think it's been maybe 9 or 10 years
Oh,
ongoing now, isn't it?
yeah. Yeah.
Maybe longer.
That's
But
really
yeah, we had crossed paths, known each other for a long time, but hadn't really played together a lot. I told Becky one time, I didn't think I was good enough to play with her for a long time, and
Wow.
and I had been working a lot with this Nancy Kane, the infamous jazz singer, and before I worked a lot with Becky, and I had told Becky, well, I'm not sure I didn't feel like I was good enough to play with you because you're so good. she said, well, I didn't think I was good enough to play with you because you played with Nancy King for all those years. So we sort of had a mutual admiration society. And I really, truly have learned so much playing with you, Becky, just because what you do is there's so much depth in what you do. And it's really helped me grow as a musician, as a bassist, to find the right notes, behind you.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, great.
Oh.
Sounds great to me.
I can see that though. I can see exactly what you're saying, Tom, because Becky is a singer she's just it goes so deep inside her. She's so kind of stable as a musician. It's just all coming from this real solid place. And yet there's all this beautiful subtlety that rises off of it. So I can
I
understand.
think of it as being very refined. That's
Yeah.
the word that I always think of when I, think of Becky. There are many words, all good, but refined is, I think, a good characterization for me, because it has helped me to consciously work to refine my own playing, to really, capture the perfect essence of every beat.
Wow. Well, you're the bass player of choice for me.
Back at you.
Speaking of that, of this place that you're talking about, I mean, this is one of my favorite subjects to talk about with students or with anybody, is that that place that we're all trying to get to all the time, and many times for people like us who have done it a lot, we arrive there quickly or most of the time, but some of the time, not. And it's just a fascinating, it's not, of course, only in music, it's in life, it's in a perspective in life, and, of course, the zen of everything, right? The zen of golf and et cetera. But that place, to get to that place is, seems to me to be one of the main roads of life. I know some people don't care about it, but I don't see how they can't really. you know what do you guys feel about that?
Well, for me, I kind of knew I had a style that I had in mind from listening to other vocalists, and I said, "Wow, I like that, but I don't want to imitate that. So I have to figure out a way to incorporate it." And it takes a lot of time alone. I mean, you have to look in deep and see what you have to offer that's special. And over the years, I've kind of refined that. I know what I want to say, and I try to say it every time. Sometimes I'm more successful than others. But if it's a bad situation, I remember the words of Louis Armstrong, who said, "You got to listen to the band in your head. If it's not that great outside." Yeah. But that's easier said than done. Sometimes.
Yeah.
That's
Do
why I like to
you
work with Tom and Randy.
right, because it's so easy
Yeah.
and beautiful. Do you find that you teach as well, right?
Not very often, but yeah, a little.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel, this is something you might say to students, but do you feel that as you're working on getting to that place, do you concentrate on one thing? Do you concentrate on the music? Do you concentrate on what you want to say? Do you?
It never has words. I can't explain it.
Yeah,
So that's why teaching is difficult for me, because I can't articulate how I do it.
yeah,
I sing. I don't know.
yeah. Do you just like all of a sudden show up and just you're in the room? You're in I call it the aesthetic universe, put your hand on the doorknob. As soon as you do that and open the door, you're in the room. And
Yeah.
if you think oh, look, that guy's looking at me. All of a sudden you're out of the room. So you have to stay in the room, and that's where all the creativity with the musicians goes on.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, if a customer comes up to you while you're singing, that's a that's a buzzkill right away.
Yeah.
Well, now that everybody's installing plexiglass
Yeah,
shields in the workplace, maybe we can, do that on the bandstand.
right.
Keep them away.
Tom, what about you?
Well, I've taught a lot. I've always had one foot in education and one foot in performance from the beginning, really. And my focus changes, but I think when you like, there are fundamentals that each instrument has that have to be mastered, or at least attempted to be mastered. So, teaching is not that difficult in that working on fundamentals, always working on the fundamentals, it's an ongoing thing. I don't have my instrument mastered, so I'm always, I'm playing scales. I'm not playing gigs very often now. I've had like 2 gigs outside since the pandemic, and we did the recording with Becky and Randy, and we did the live stream. So I'm not really motivated. I practice out of fear a lot of the time, fear of sucking and fear of letting others down when I'm on the bandstand. And when I was playing a lot of shows, doing a lot of, it was all sight reading. And in those days, they didn't send the music ahead of time, the touring shows, as they'd come through a town or through towns. We do these sort of regional tours. You didn't get the book ahead of time. So you had one rehearsal, you went to the rehearsal and you had to read it down. So, I would spend hours just sight reading. I'd go buy a stack of trombone books, and I was playing mostly electric bass at the time. And I just would sit and sight read and turn pages and read and paint. But I did it all completely out of abject fear of not measuring up when I actually had to perform. So that's still probably what motivates me much of the time in my practicing. And now I practice scales and arpeggios and classical etudes. And then, I play like you said, we're going to do some overdubs on this recording project. And so I have some fixes that I need to make. And so I've been playing those every day. I've been playing on the pieces that I want to go in and make my parts better on, so that when I get in there, I'm well prepared. With students, obviously it depends on their ability level and their experience and their interests, but it's really about technique. And so we don't really move on to the second step, which might be improvising, or they all want to know how to play great solos, and want to know how to create good bass lines and all that. But,
Yeah.
We don't go there until we've, played our scales and played our etudes and, dealt with playing in tune, all those things you need to do. And I must say, I'm not classically trained on the acoustic bass. I'm self-taught, but I played classical clarinet. I started playing clarinet when I was quite young, and played it all the way through college and got a classical clarinet degree. So I know how to approach that, how to approach an instrument with that methodology, and I've applied it to the bass. But I can't play with a bow to save my life, for example. So I think the beauty of music is, no matter what level we are, whether we're amateurs or beginners or more advanced, there's always more to find, and there's great joy, in finding it. There's as much joy watching little kids play chopsticks, and see how turned on they get. That tells the whole story. That's why I play music. That was my first experience.
Cool. Hey, we had a comment about the sound. Tom, you're a little bit loud, and Becky, you're a little bit soft. Can you turn it up?
Okay, I'm turning it up.
Okay.
I don't know how to turn mine down.
1, 2.
Hold on, maybe I'll ask Siri. Hey Siri, turn it down.
Okay,
see if that works.
Okay. Wow. You know, I'm reading this book that Larry Kuntz has been reading, and he talked about it. It's called The Singularity is Near, and it's written by Ray Kurzweil, the guy who created the Kurzweil, and he was actually an inventor. He wrote this book in 2005, and he was talking about artificial intelligence and how the age right now is, you know, like the industrial age and the information age, and the age now is actually, and that was in 2005, that it was on like this curve because it's an exponential development. Not, it doesn't repeat itself how it is. It repeats and then it starts, you know, going really fast, right? So and he's very positive about it, which is refreshing. You know, because most people who talk about the future aren't that refreshing about it. Yeah, but anyway, so it's a cool book. It's really interesting. I'm going to get it more into reading. I try and squeeze in my reading every day a little bit, but it's difficult because I have fallen back into my old busyness. But I've decided to slow stuff down. So in about a month, I'm going to slow stuff way down. And most people are working the other way around, right? Most people are like really slow, and they're trying to fill in their time. I was really slow in the beginning of all this, and then my normal slide, just like said, "Okay, everybody, come on in again." You know, so it's crazy.
Yeah. Well,
How have you guys been doing?
well, I like being centered and alone with my thoughts. I'm basically an introvert, and I don't miss traveling at all.
I
Wow.
know traveling is.
Me neither.
I just wish we could be beamed over already, you know, and you
Well,
know.
that's kind of what we're doing now. We're beaming our live streams out there, and no one has to move an inch. So, but I feel like I've reconnected with myself in a way, and I like that.
Yeah,
But I can't make a living that way.
yeah.
So,
So we have to redevelop ourselves and
hmm
find out how to make a living.
Well, I think it's interesting too. I mean, you know, everyone is in a different stage of their life and their career and their arc. And I think perhaps, just speaking for myself, you know, for one who, you know, I'm 67, well, soon anyway, and you know, we are very blessed to have accumulated some, you know, some means to be able to weather this situation. And so I think it looks much different when you have the luxury of not having to, you know, travel as much, or not, you know what I mean? I'm not really motivated, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You know, and I see people, you know, doing what you're doing, or teaching on Skype, or, you know, I have, like, Randy's very busy, you know, and Randy's taken the initiative to teach privately and do his live streams and all these things, and put forth the energy and the expense to do it in a quality way. If you haven't seen his Sunday night concerts, you should watch them. They're really well done. And, you know, part of that, I think, is motivated by one's love for doing what we do. And part of it is motivated by the necessity of having to keep the train on the tracks, so to speak. You know, and we're all at different places in that. You know, as I said earlier, I practice out of fear, and I suspect that you know, if I didn't have the stability to pay my bills each month, I'd be doing Skype lessons out of necessity. You know,
Yeah,
but I'm not motivated. I don't want to deal with a computer and cameras and microphones and all that crap.
yeah, yeah. Well, it is in the motivation, definitely. You know, what are you motivated to do? I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who walk by the practice room. You know, they're not motivated to sing, play, their creative interest is somewhere else, gardening or,
Hmm.
you know, and just,
Cooking.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's okay.
yeah,
That's
it is okay.
perfectly okay.
Yeah,
There's a season, where everybody's in a different season.
yeah, yeah,
But I miss the gigs. I miss the hang. The thing I love about traveling is the hang. Hanging out at, like, when Becky, we hang at the airport. We
Yeah.
get something to eat and get some coffee and yuck it up, and meeting people, and you go out to dinner at nice restaurants and all those, talking to your friends, seeing your friends around the country, and
yeah,
those kinds of things, and the camaraderie
yeah,
and the musical. I really miss the being in the middle of music with people. That communication is so deep and so beautiful, and that's a real loss. It's a
yeah,
real loss.
yeah. Um, hey, Becky, switching subjects a little, or dramatically. Um, where did you grow up? How did you come up with music?
I grew up in a suburb of Boston.
You
And
did?
yeah,
Wait, did I know that? Because I'm from Boston too.
oh, I grew up in Waltham.
Oh my God, I grew up in Oak Hill Park.
Where's that?
It's the corner of Newton that is literally nestled on the other side of Chestnut Hill, in between Dedham and Needham. I mean, it's like literally in the corner.
Oh, pretty nice.
Wow, we're Boston girls.
Yeah, and Meredith D'Ambrosio also grew up
Yes.
in Newton.
Oh gosh, Meredith, right?
I've been talking to her on the phone recently because I recorded one of her songs, and I wanted to ask her how to go about registering it.
Uh, Thank you for reminding me. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's see. My dad was a musician,
Yeah.
but when he got married and had kids, he made that an avocation, and he worked a business job. And my mother was a graphic artist,
Oh,
and she had gone to art school, and she was very talented. They were both very talented, and
yeah.
I always thought I'd follow in my mother's footsteps. So I went to the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, and it was way too big a school. It was like thousands and thousands and thousands of students, and I just felt lost. So I dropped out in the middle of my junior year. I was an art major, but and then I just did a series of jobs, different things. And my sister moved to Portland for a relationship. She met a guy who was a former teacher at MIT, and they moved to Portland because he got a job teaching at Reed College as a physicist. And so I visited them, and I fell in love with Portland. This was like 1979,
Oh,
and I thought, wow, I love it here. And the people are friendly, and it's beautiful, and it's like going back in time. So I drove out here months later, and my sister had broken up with that guy by that time. She found an apartment for us both to live on West Burnside and 20, actually King Avenue, and I still feel fondly nice memories when I drive by there. And that was when I had been studying guitar in Boston with a guy who was a student at Berklee College of Music. And so I knew some chords, and I was kind of teaching myself how to play the songs of Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald. And I was living in Cambridge before I moved to Portland. And so when I moved to Portland, I went out and heard some live music. And there was this quartet called Holy Cats, which is spelled Wholly, Holy Cats, which is a song that was written by Benny Goodman. So that was their name. And there was a woman playing guitar and singing. And I thought, wow, she's doing what I do in my living room. I'd love to do that. So she and I became friends, and then she decided to quit the band, and she recommended me for taking the job. at first I thought, oh my God, I'm not a professional. But I turned professional overnight. And I loved it. I loved it. I had to learn all their repertoire. Plus, I brought in my new repertoire. And it was, we worked at the Brasserie Montmartre. We worked up at some little place in Vancouver, Washington. Can't remember the name of it. It doesn't exist anymore anyway. And that was my boot camp.
Huh.
That was a very successful band. And you remember Fathers, Tom?
Yeah, I used to play there with Nancy.
Oh,
We
yeah.
played I think we played Sunday and Monday nights. Nancy and Steve Christopherson and Lawrence Williams and I.
Oh,
Because you
wow.
guys were working there like 5 nights a week, weren't you?
Right.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
For a year or so. And it was a very popular spot. And it was very cool. It was like the nightclubs in the old movies. And they would have, every once in a while, they tried once a month, but maybe not that often, to have a national act come in. They didn't, it was mostly solo, so they had Dave Frischberg come in, that's where I
Oh.
met him,
Uh-huh.
and they, I think they had,
That's where he decided he wanted to move to Oregon, probably.
right, and they had Bill Berry, the,
Bill Berry, my adored Bill Berry.
yeah, he was so nice,
He was great.
and Scott Hamilton,
Uh,
and a lot of people. It was Dave McKenna, I think.
mm,
So it was great, and uh, so that's how music came into my life, and it was a turning point. It was just great.
yeah. So you're a pretty accomplished guitar player?
But yeah, but just rhythm. I can't.
Okay.
I don't know the names of the notes on the fretboard. How do I do that, Tom? You don't even have frets.
I don't. No, but they're the same. Becky's a great guitarist. She's a great rhythm guitar player. I love playing bass with her quarter notes.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is fun. When I play rhythm guitar, I feel the music. I mean, it's very physical, and it makes me feel more part of it. I love it, but as I get older, I can't remember the words and the chords. It's like they're two
Ah, shit.
competing. You gotta play the right chords. You gotta sing the right words. So,
You play guitar on you play guitar on some of the tracks on this new recording that we're doing.
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
we should.
Actually, I made a note. I'm going to overdub. There's a section I'm going to overdub, and I made a note on my part to ask the engineer to leave only the rhythm guitar. Like when I'm redoing this part, all I want to hear is rhythm guitar play over. Nothing against Randy and the piano. It's just if I hear you playing that beat, I'm good to go.
Oh, good. And we don't. It's a trio. We don't ever have drums. And that post you played at the beginning of the hour was with Dave Tall, and I love working with him because he's a singer and he's a songwriter, and he knows what that's like, and so. And plus, he's written some wonderful duets for us to sing together. They're very funny and very great. They're just great. I love him.
Yeah, he was on a few weeks ago.
I heard him. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. He's a very accomplished musician.
He is, and he's a very optimistic person. And he's
Yeah.
upbeat, and he doesn't have bad things to say about people.
Yeah. Nice. I saw you had your guitar there. Do you want to sing and play a little guitar? You don't have to. We can just go onto YouTube, actually.
Yeah, let's go on to YouTube.
All right. Um, let's see. We're going to share my screen, and we're going to wherever I had. Nope, that was not it. We had. Hold on, you guys. I'm getting it together. Nope, that's not one. Oh, here we are. Okay. And Rebecca Kilgore. And Let's take away the day I learned French. And so, you know, and oh my gosh, what is that?
What's what?
Nancy King, Rebecca Kilgore, and Veronica
Veronica
Swift.
Swift.
Can I play a little of that?
Yeah. I mean, it's an hour and 47 minutes, so don't play it.
No, we don't have to play the whole thing, but it would be really fun to see the three. Are you singing together also?
We
Or?
do. We sing "Pennies from Heaven" at the end.
Oh yeah, here you are. All of you, I think. Yeah, I have to see that. And I'm going to have to go back here and look at the whole thing too, because
Mhm.
where was this?
In Portland at the new Performing Arts Center.
Oh. Nancy King, Veronica Swift, and Rebecca Kilgore.
Well, I take it all the time trying to figure out what tune to do, so maybe we should just move along. Let's bring our two stars out. This is Rebecca Kilgore and Darling. Let's do some centerpiece. Yeah. Does that sound good?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good.
Ah! Oh boy. That was fun. Yeah, I had to go to that. I'm sorry. Just I know it wasn't exactly just your thing, but I had to look at that. Um, yeah. That wasn't all that long ago, right?
That was October 3rd, 2019, I believe.
Yeah. I'm just getting back to where I was here. Yeah, so Tom, hi Tom.
Hi.
So let's ask you about your growing up. I mean, you gave us a little bit of your background, your musical background, but where'd you grow up and did you come from a musical family or?
Well, not as such. I mean, my folks were both musical, and they encouraged me. They played a little piano, and my dad shared a lot of music with me when I was young, via recordings and television. Um, I was born in Seattle, uh, moved to Chicago, and then eventually it ended up out here in Portland, and all due to my parents moving for their careers. My dad moving for his career, I should say. Um, I Doug Lawrence Welk. I got to tell you, I was a kid that was on our television set, and I saw Pete Fountain uh, one evening, and my uncle actually, who had lost his life in World War II. My parents were Canadian, so my family is all Canadian. Um, was a clarinetist. So anyway, my folks bought me a clarinet and got me signed up for private lessons right away, uh, which was quite fortunate. And I just always knew I wanted to do music. So that's what I've done my whole life. And I've had the good fortune of having some very good teachers uh, who, you know, were helpful on the teaching end and helpful on the, they hooked me up. I got in with teachers who, I guess I won their respect, and they hooked me up with gigs and, got me going. I learned the bass in high school. I had moved out here for my last year in high school to Oregon, uh, and was playing saxophone and clarinet, but they needed a bass player in the school stage band. And so I said, I'd like to do it. The guy gave me an electric bass and the bass book and said, here you go. And I had been studying piano. My teachers had said, you need to learn piano. If you're going to get serious about music, you really need to learn piano. So I'd taken piano lessons and knew the bass clef. So I knew enough to sort of find my way around. And I learned the bass book on electric bass, and we were, in high school playing tunes from Count Basie's library and Buddy Rich's library and things like that. And my folks really, they said, well, what do you want to do when you get out of high school? I said, well, I want to do music, and they cringed. And they said, well, I mean, what about would you like to be a doctor? And I went, well, no, I want to do music. And we went through that whole routine. And they suggested that I teach music, and I said, well, I'm going to go to college, and I don't, yeah, I suppose, So anyway, I worked on, a education degree, getting my credentials, to do that. And but I was playing gigs. I started playing gigs when I was in high school, and I was always playing gigs. And I was brought up in a time where, the advice, to a young person who showed promise was buy a tux, join the union. Learn how to, if you can sing, if you can play some drums, if you can, you need to learn all the styles. You need to learn how to fake tunes, play by ear. You need to learn how to be a good reader. If you want to survive, here's what you got to do. That's basically it. So I did. I just did what they said to do. And, joined the union and started working. And in those days,
Was this
in
in
those days,
Portland?
the phone rang. Sorry, Becky.
Was this in Portland at that point?
In Portland, yeah. Yeah. And the phone rings, you get on somebody's list, and and the contractors begin to call you, and You sort of work your way up to the better things. But I played commercial music, pop music and showbiz.
Yeah.
And I always dug jazz, but I was making a living doing that and teaching part-time. I had private students and, taught at some school kinds of things. I never really fancied wanting to teach full-time. Just always felt like it would be in the way of my music, my playing.
Yeah.
But I always had some teaching going on, whether it was in a, private Catholic, like a Catholic grade school, teaching band for 5th through 8th graders. And I did that a little bit and taught at a private prep school and ended up actually running the jazz program at Willamette University in Salem, Oregon. Did that for about 7 years in the 1990s, playing the whole time. And I really realized that if I liked jazz, I needed to play jazz. And so I sort of phased out playing commercial gigs. I phased out doing shows and jingles, radio commercials and stuff like that. I phased out all that stuff about 1993, 1994, and just focused on just playing jazz. And because I had the good fortune of having parents who suggested I also be a teacher, I could afford to only play jazz and make the income up that I lost from playing commercial gigs by teaching. And I got a college job, but I taught at Willamette and ended up at a community college as a chair of a music department, and always again, and that was full time. It's really the only full time job I ever had. Did it for about 13 years.
Yeah.
Like as a part of, I was the man. Somebody said, just think of it now, you're the man. Like having grown up in the 60s, we were taught to stick it to the man, and all of a sudden I was the man. And it ended well, and it was a great experience. And again, I took that job on the condition that I could come and go as I pleased. Leave town, be gone, come back, and and I just got better and better at playing the acoustic bass. And so that's sort of I'm sort of a dinosaur, I'm a sideman. I just play the bass.
Yeah, but I mean, the way you came up was kind of the ideal of that period of time. I mean, and it still would be good to have people come up like that, but it's a whole different time,
Yeah, we learned out doing it. You learned in the getting on the bandstand and getting your ass kicked, and now there's all these music education programs, and I don't want to demean that because I have been a part of that. But it's, there's an element of it that troubles me in higher education, because I think, and it's one reason why I decided to retire when I did. I felt like, it didn't feel quite right standing up in front of a college big band and holding out that there are jobs for the guy who plays second tenor saxophone, and third trombone. People are making the way people are making a living doing what I do, doing music and doing creative endeavors is much different now. And I felt that it was probably somebody else's problem to solve in terms of being an educator and teaching younger people how they might do this thing that they love to do and survive, build a career that is sustainable, where they, amass some assets and some, I don't want to use the word security because it's so not how it is, but, build enough, that they can, raise a family and not be living on the street, and I mean, the reality of it is things cost money, and we have to figure out how to make that happen. And so it's a different world, and the notion that people can go in and go to school, a lot of people go to college and they get their music degrees and then they teach college.
Yes.
And it just continues. But like, what are we doing? What are we teaching? And what are we preparing younger people for? And I did come to find out that much of it is more the sharing of our love for music and the joyfulness that we felt inside when we were playing chopsticks on the piano. That's why we play music, and that manifests itself in so many different ways. We're not just training people to be professional musicians, as such. So, that's sort of my story, and I've had the good fortune to play with a lot of, my heroes, and a lot of instrumentalists, and I've also had the good fortune of playing with people with whom I have chemistry. I've seemed to have found situations for myself that last for a number of years with the same people, and it's because chemistry. And when we find those situations, I think it's great that we help create opportunities for those situations so that we can keep them going. And that's I think one reason why Becky and Randy and I have been playing together for an extended period of time. We sort of recognize we have a really nice chemistry, and it's, as opposed to going and playing gigs with people you don't know as well, or maybe the chemistry isn't, you don't hear music the same way, and you don't conceptualize things the same way, and that in itself is not a bad thing. But boy, when you find beautiful chemistry among a few people, and personally and musically, it's a huge gift.
Yeah. Have you've said have you played with a lot of different artists, or have you kind of locked into this, what you were just describing more, or have you been on the road with different artists, or?
I've played with a lot of different artists. Yeah. And around, like, at jazz festivals and a lot of the universities. I was into a scene where I was doing a lot of university jazz festivals, where you would have bands would come and play for adjudicators, and then they would have a guest artist at night, maybe Arturo Sandoval or Pete Kritzlieb or somebody like that. And so you go and you maybe work with some student bands in the daytime and do some workshops, and then you perform with Arturo Sandoval at night as part of the rhythm section. So
Right.
I've done a lot of that kind of stuff, and I've been to Europe to play with Lee Konitz. I got to spend some time with Lee, which was sort of life-changing in a good way. And a lot of those kind of people, Benny Golson, and and much through my education, having one foot in education, and yeah, so I've done, played with a lot of sort of old jazz guys and got my butt kicked and learned how to do that well. And, some jazz parties and festivals, and, Becky is in that whole scene. And so we've done some really cool things like that. And yeah, I've always looked for a chemistry situation and to try to sustain something and move from one to the other over the years, but also had other things going on.
Yeah.
Basically.
You're it's bass players. I think bass is a really interesting instrument, because I just really kind of thought about it, but let me see if I can be somewhat intelligent. When I listen to other instruments, I probably hear their styles and their voices more, and I'm not sure why, piano or horn. There's a lot of times I can tell who's playing. And bass players seem to, I remember, okay, this is probably part of what I'm trying to figure out in my head. So I had a long-term jam session going for like 16 years, every Wednesday. And I remember I had a really good bass player in the beginning. And, the bass player in a jam session he's got the worst chair. There's just not a lot of bass players who show up, He has to play with everybody, he or she. And and I thought, from my perspective, like this trio was really good, the basic trio, And one day he said, "I can't take the drummer," and I was so blown away. I was shocked. I just couldn't believe it. And then I started listening, and seeing if I could tell the subtleties. And I still think I don't always know, because of course I can't be in your head, for instance. I don't know who you love and who you don't love. But it seems that bass players have really more than anybody. Well, of course, the bass is the time, right? He's the timekeeper. And I always tell my students that it's the bass player is the timekeeper. Don't be misled by the drums. I mean, everybody has to have a good time, but it's the bass player. And so maybe that's part of what stands out in my listening is the timekeeping of the bass player and the groove, the time and the groove, which are closely tied in together, right? I don't know what I'm asking.
Well, bass players, the relationship between bass players and drummers is somewhat delicate. And our challenge in all situations is to make beautiful music. And so we have to adjust our consciousness to do that. And so there's an element of coming to the other person, going to the other person, and one hopes that each will come to the other, but that isn't necessarily the case. And sometimes we're not capable of that, or we don't understand in the moment that we need to be the one that moves to the other, or maybe the other is intractable and isn't going to move. And so whatever the circumstance, for me, I have to figure out how to make beautiful music with whoever I'm on the bandstand with. And I have to not get dark about it when it's not happening. And when I was a younger man, I didn't do well at the not getting dark part. But I've learned that that just doing that takes me out of the music and does no good at all. And so I let that go and just try to figure out how to make music. And there are times when it's, I get done, and I'm exhausted because I've been having to work so hard to make it happen in my own mind. And at the same time, the drummer might go home and say, oh God, that bass player, I had to work so hard to make it happen. So, it's only my perception. I might be as not happening as the person who I think maybe isn't happening. And sometimes it's just a matter of chemistry. It doesn't mean anyone is good or bad or better or worse. It's just we hear music differently, and we hear a sound and texture and a sonic surroundings much differently, and so what I value, I think there's commonality. There are certain things that are good, in sound and, clarity and transparency. So, that's sort of the deal. And I think we look for good situations, and we look for people with whom we have chemistry. And when we have less chemistry with someone, then we try to be kind and we try to go to them and figure out how to make beautiful music.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Cool.
For me.
Becky.
Can I ask Tom a question?
Sure.
So you've talked about bass players with drummers, but what about with piano players? Because they're playing maybe different chords from you. Do you use your ear and jump to what they're doing?
Yeah, the question is always going to be who's going to follow who around. And there are some pianists that it's like I'll say to Randy, man, you make every note I play sound good.
Oh, wow.
So it's really easy, and whatever he's doing to get what I'm hearing, and there are some who I have to follow. I'm always following him and listening to what he's up to, but I also know I have a certain freedom. So yeah, I mean, it is the same with pianists, and some pianists are more busy. I like air. I like there to be a lot of air in the music. And some pianists play more dense voicings, and they're just more busy, and others leave more space. And if they're more busy and more dense, then my options are more limited. I have to rein it in a little bit so that I make what they are playing sound good. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah. But if you're going to play with a new piano player that you'd never played with before, you're just kind of all ears.
Yeah, all ears, and cautious perhaps isn't the best characterization, but a little careful to see where their head's at and to find that common ground. What parts of music do we hear the same, and what parts do we hear differently, and how do we not destroy what the other is doing,
That's
harmonically or rhythmically.
That's probably similar to Becky too. I know as a singer, and I get together with a piano player especially, it's like I also prefer air. And I also well, I mean, if a player's going to play standards with me, then I would really like them to play some beautiful chords, right? Then I can choose to sing the melody or not. Cute cat. Um, and then also, I mean, sometimes I want to choose uh, tension notes. I do that a lot. And if the player adjusts for me, that's really a no-no. You know, they adjust their chord because they think that I'm wrong or something, or that I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's really annoying.
Yeah.
But Becky,
Well,
how do you do it when you first start with the piano player or guitar player?
Um, well, I do like, I can feel the give and take pretty quickly. And was it Angelo that we played with, Versace?
oh, in Arizona, yeah,
Yeah, he was great.
he's killing.
And I had given him my charts in advance, and to my surprise, he actually studied them. No one ever does that. But but anyway, it was really fun to play with him, and I kept telling him over and over again. So that was a pleasant surprise. But
So did you like his sense of timing or his chords, or
Mhm.
what did you like about him?
uh, he just had a sense of what I was trying to convey. My my motto is I want to swing and have fun. So he was up for it, and I don't know if he knew any of these songs beforehand because I have a pretty eclectic repertoire, but yeah, I liked everything about him.
He took the time to scope out your stuff beforehand.
Yeah,
He was prepared. I mean,
yeah.
that's what's supposed to happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah,
It
imagine
ain't
that.
rocket science. Listen to the recordings, and look at the charts. You know.
Yeah,
Sometimes I think some of the great studio people, you know, they just didn't want to do that. So they got good at reading immediately and making it
mm-hmm.
good immediately.
I think that's a different pursuit.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a bit of a different pursuit. And there's certainly people who can just come in and do it cold. You know, that are at that level. You know, of pianists. You know,
Hmm.
but by and large, for we mortals, you know, you got to prepare. You know, you have to prepare.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you guys, have you guys ever recorded music that's slightly out of the genre of jazz, would you say? Or a piece that was thought of as outside of the genre and then brought it in to the genre?
Well, I recorded with a German band over in Munich a year or so ago, and these musicians were terrific. It's a small band called Echoes of Swing, which is a play on words of Echoes of Spring, the U.B. Blake song. But they are all accomplished, and the pianist wrote a madrigal using a Shakespeare sonnet as the text, and it had classical guitar, piano, and bass. I think that's all. And it was so pretty. I fell in love. I just fell in love with it. It was so gorgeous, and I just tried to sing it as no vibrato, and just as I don't know if you're familiar with Maxine Sullivan,
Yeah.
and she did these Shakespearean songs that Dick Hyman had written using Shakespeare
Hmm.
plays or something, and she made them light and beautiful and swinging. I don't know if I accomplished that, but I tried, and And I just figure if you love the song, if you love the melody and the treatment, you got to just go with that. Just focus on that love that you feel.
Yeah. Is that, do you think that's on YouTube?
Let me see.
I can go look. What is it called
Well,
again?
the CD is called Winter Days at Schloss Elmo. Let me see.
Oh, there it is.
Thank
Look at that.
Temperatures in Southern California are setting new records.
They certainly are. Skip ads, thanks. Echoes of Swing. Let's see. This one is Winter Days.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, this is the album.
Yeah. So, but I think it has the individual cuts as well.
Let's see. Oops, did I go somewhere else? Is there a video too? Is this it?
No, there's not a video. You can download the.
Oh, I think I went to their personal site. Let me see.
Looks like it's going to play right now.
That's not the one I was thinking of.
Right. What is the title of the song?
Oh, let me
I think this is Winter Moon. Oh, here's a mix of it. Let's see. Play all. So the bell that couldn't jingle, snow, looks like December, winter moon, getting to be that time of year, snowbound, winter wonderland, and I've got my love to keep me warm.
It's called Sonnet 97.
Oh, that's the one thing I didn't see. Let's see.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, okay.
How like a winter hath mine absence been from thee, the pleasure of the fleeting year. What freezings I have felt, what dark days seen, what old Decembers, bareness everywhere. And yet this time removed was summer's time, the teeming autumn big with rich increase, bearing the wanton burden of the prime like widowed wombs after their lord's decease. Yet this abundant issue seemed to me but hope of orphans and unfathered fruit. For summer and his pleasures wait on thee, and thou away. The very birds are mute, or if they sing, 'tis with so dull a cheer that leaves look pale, dreading the winter's near.
Cool. Wow. Yeah.
It's different, isn't it?
It's different, but it's cool because, frankly, because you bring a very intimate quality to it, you know. Yeah. Yeah, you made me think a little bit about Norma Winstone. You know, your voice has some
thank
qualities of
you.
hers as well. Yeah. Um, we're so lucky. I think we're so lucky to have singers like you and Nancy King and Norma Winstone, Jay Clayton and Sheila Jordan. You know, it's a certain kind of tribe feeling, and it's not the show offy type of stuff. It's much more intimate, and it's for the sake of the music, and it's very, you know, um, respectable, you know, kind of the position and the perspective, you know.
Yeah. Well, when Tom was talking, I was feeling sympathetic because I was a singer who learned on the bandstand. That's how I learned to sing. And so, and I, at the time when I was coming up, I didn't know anyone who had gone to school because there weren't any jazz programs in colleges at that point. So, but now I kind of wish that I had been able to go to school for music theory, and because there are, you know, I'd like to be able to write better and with more knowledge behind what I'm writing.
Not too late.
I know, but and
Right now, you know, you can actually there's a lot of actually good programs online that are simple and that you can do, and that are not expensive either.
oh,
I think there's a Coursera, see, like course and then RA. Actually, you can take free lessons, and you know, they're really decent. So I'm just saying you could actually put yourself in a little program in a matter of a few months. You could actually know more.
well, I started taking an arranging class at Portland State University, which has a pretty good music program.
Yeah,
We got a kitten when we were
that
quarantined.
is a beautiful kitten.
She's a Russian blue. It's a very nice breed
Beautiful.
and very affectionate. So I enjoyed that, but I wonder, they're probably not even having classes now. I guess maybe they are online. But I took it for like $35 as a senior.
Great.
Hmm.
By the way, Ron Peters says hello.
Hi, Ron. He's up in
Did you know
Seattle.
that Ron and I lived together?
No.
When we were both at Berkeley, and in the 70s, like 72. I don't know if Ron went the whole time that I did, 72 to 75, or maybe, I don't know. Can't remember when exactly we met, but when we left, we moved to San Francisco, and for a few, like 6 months or something, and then we moved to LA. And yeah, we were together, I think, for about a year there, you know, once we moved. And then, yeah, and then I sang at his wedding.
To his current wife?
Yeah, but I was really embarrassed. I'll tell you the funny story about that. Sorry, Ron, I have to tell this story. So, so it was actually near the uh, the cemetery where his dad was buried, and I was with him through that, right? And so his mother was in the audience, she was in the front, and whatever. I was, I was obviously brought back to whatever, and I was singing, and I started crying, and I was so humiliated because I thought, oh my God, everybody probably thinks I'm miserable that Ron's marrying someone else. And some woman came up afterwards and she said, "Oh, you're so professional." And I was like, "No, I am so not professional." But anyway, I saw Ron a little while ago. I went to Greta Matas's house, and did a workshop and stuff. And I had him do the workshop with me. It was really fun.
Great.
Yeah.
I've gotten to know him and his wife and daughter, Alexa,
Yeah.
and that's because of going to the BC Swing Camp
Oh,
where I teach. I've been doing that for 6 years now, and they didn't have it this year. So it would be happening like this week, and
yeah.
it's a great camp. I just love it. So we're all determined to keep it. We're gonna make it all the better next year.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of going back to school and, learning, that to me, I can't tell you how many times I've thought about that, and I haven't taken my own advice. And boy, I would just love to go back to, because I remember the feeling of learning arranging, and I was a little too young, probably. I didn't know my basic theory too much, but I loved the process of writing for horns, and I just think, oh my God, I wonder if it's like too long a road for me or not. But so you and I are kind of probably thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Well, if you find anything, let me know.
Yeah. Ron, somebody, Lisa, Rebecca's from Boston, Lisa. She's from Waltham.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, let's see, what other Tom, I wanted to know, do you have other recordings that we might listen to I mean, we don't have to listen to you and Rebecca. We could listen to you and somebody else.
Yeah, I'm on a bunch of different recordings. Yeah,
Shall we look?
sure. I always have to think about. I see. You can go on YouTube, can't you? I never do that.
Yeah. Well, this
I'm so lame.
is very convenient for this particular thing.
Yeah.
Let's go to stop that and Tom Wakeling.
Let's see what turns up.
Song.
Oh, you know what? I do. I have like a YouTube channel.
Oh,
You can go down to
right here.
there. Keep going. Go up. Oh yeah, that would work. That would work. Yeah. So there are recordings down there where it says created playlists on the left-hand side with the blue cover. Yeah, that would be
In here.
all of the recordings, I think. I've done so many different kinds of things. These are all, and this is an electric band with Steve Christopherson, actually, who I've been musical friends with for better part of 40 years now.
Yeah.
And Steve was Nancy King's accompanist forever.
Yeah.
So I'm on Steve's records, and then I'm on these bridge quartet records with Daryl Grant and Alan Jones and a wonderful Canadian saxophone player named Phil Dwyer.
Uh-huh.
That is the Alan Jones Sextet, and there's a couple of Becky's records. I don't know if you want to play something. You can pick something, and I can say yes or no, or probably don't want to have something that's too long.
What about something with Steve?
Yeah, how about Booyah Dot? There you go.
Why do
I'll give you an idea. These are all Steve's compositions.
Is that why I know that name, Booyah Dot?
That's just one of Steve's tunes. Nancy hasn't recorded it, but we did this Oh boy, we did this record a long time ago. It's John Gross on tenor, I think, and Steve on piano and organ, and myself on electric bass, and Jeff Compton on drums, and I don't know who else is on this. I don't remember. We probably recorded this in 1990 or something like that.
John Gross used to live here. He was in the scene,
Yes, I know. Yeah, I know John very well. Played in several bands with John.
Great player. Okay, so here's Boyadot. Nice. To the last holdouts. I like that title.
Yeah, yeah. That was actually Bob Newman on tenor saxophone. Bob was in Portland for a minute from Florida.
Hmm.
And Tom, who was on guitar?
Todd Carver, I think. There were two guitarists on that album, Todd Carver and Jay Coder, and I think that sounded like Todd to me.
And Steve was playing the B3 or the Hammond or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Steve is he's one of my favorite musicians anywhere. We've been friends for, like I said, over 40 years and played a lot of music together. In our own band, we have a band that's actually called the Tom and Steve Band, uh, and then with Nancy, of course, playing a lot of gigs with Nancy. We did a trio thing for a while and had a quartet with a drummer named Lawrence Williams, who's since passed on. Yeah, he's a fantastic composer and musician.
He and Nancy came here several times and did a workshop, and it, basically it was him teaching. But
Yeah.
Nancy was, Nancy like kind of like Meredith D'Ambrosio. They're not exactly teachers, but they are incredible storytellers. And literally, especially with Meredith, I was so amazed. Literally, students were sitting on the floor around her feet, listening to her stories.
Jeez.
It was really interesting. It wasn't a teaching thing per se, And Nancy's the same way, you get her, ask
Yeah.
Get her going.
a great story behind it, She's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and Tom, were you ever involved with a project that was not a jazz project per se, or?
Well, I mean, I played on people's, sort of pop kind of records and stuff, but pretty much everything I've, done recording wise is in some way associated with creative music of one type or another.
Yeah, creative.
The other stuff is just sort of, I used to call it hammering, pounding nails. It's just play bass, get money, go home.
Luckily, Becky and I don't know anything about that, right, Becky?
Yeah, that's not the case with the jazz people I had played with, and the people I've been playing with the last 25, 30 years. That's not the case at all.
Yeah. So, Becky, do you always play guitar on your gigs?
No, hardly ever.
Oh, no.
I'm always asking Becky to schlep the guitar,
'Cause I have to schlep an amplifier too.
Yeah.
I keep saying, if you've got Randy Porter playing chords, what could I add?
Yeah. Becky, have you traveled a lot with your career?
Yes, I've been to Europe several times, Germany, France, Italy, England. Are you familiar with the concept of jazz parties? Are you?
Like, you mean like organizations basically that have, is that what you're talking about?
Well, it's like a jazz festival. It takes place over a weekend, but there's one stage,
Oh,
and it takes place in a ballroom at a hotel, and the people who attend usually stay at the hotel, and they hire a roster of musicians, and you're mixed and matched throughout the weekend with different musicians. So that way I got to play with a lot of people I wouldn't ordinarily have even known. Dick Hyman, Dave McKenna, and so I know people all over the country. And also, I was associated with a woman and her husband who have a travel agency where they book jazz cruises. And that's called Jazz Doggin because they're Dutch, but they live in LA, in Studio City. And they used to put on, 4 cruises a year, and they have a stable of musicians that they call upon, and I've done many of those. I've been to South America, the Panama Canal, Rio de Janeiro, and they go all over. I haven't been to nearly all the places they go, but of course they're not doing that now.
Yeah, that's too bad, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a great way to see the world and to meet other musicians, and since we weren't hired by the cruise line, we had nice staterooms, and we were just treated like guests on the ship, which was very nice.
Yeah. By the way, I had a question. All of us were talking before about playing with different people, and from Sandy Cummings, who's a singer in Santa Barbara. And it's just a good question. If one person is the decision maker, how do they invite the creativity of their cohorts? Is cooperation all you want?
Well, I think cooperation would develop over time. If it's a new person, you just kind of sing and listen and see what happens. And you can talk about it with the person afterwards if you are so inclined. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I said earlier, I've, been a sideman largely, but I've been a band leader. I spent a lot of time as a band leader as well. And, every leader is different. Some leaders, like Miles Davis was known for, hiring great players and letting them do their thing, and not saying very much. And I think that works if you have good players who have that, ability. But I think it's also, there are times when you have to say, play in two, or I want brushes on this, or, blah, 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 and Becky does that, Becky will say, hey, Tom, play in two on this, or, give some sort of,
Guidelines.
Yeah, some, guidance, and that's, she'll say as little as she needs to say to get what she like. Hopefully she gets what she likes with a minimum of direction. And some band leaders are, real picky, and they say a lot, and they, they give a lot of direction, and so I think you've got to find what you're comfortable with. Speaking to the person from Santa Barbara, I think you've got to find a manner that suits that is comfortable for you. But I think you also have to understand that if you are the leader, people do not like uncertainty. Sidemen do not like uncertainty. So if your charts aren't clean, or if you're not giving a sense of what you want, either by singing it so that the musicians understand, or by giving verbal directions, I think you can solve a lot of problems by bringing clarity when clarity is needed. If you feel things are going a little sideways, and you need to say something, and you can't be afraid to say something.
Yeah, good answer.
But you can't expect someone to play how they can't play. I mean, if someone's really busy, you can't say, don't play so busy, don't play so many notes, because that's a criticism. Yeah, then they'll shut down. Yeah. You're always walking that fine line of, you don't want to shut people down. You don't want to scare them, because then they're walking on eggshells for 2 hours. Having done a lot of touring shows, these conductors, a lot of times conductors can be like that, and man, once that gets started, in an orchestra pit, everybody's just walking like they're walking on thin ice, and everybody starts to become timid, and then that just ruins all of the whole vibe, to make beautiful music, because people are they're just so timid because they're going to get whacked otherwise, they're afraid, so it's a fine line, you're dealing with human beings.
Yeah, I've had lots of different experiences with that and some kind of hairy ones too, you know. And
Yeah.
and then some of those hairy ones I felt bad about, and then some of them I didn't. You know, it just goes deep down the rabbit hole, you know.
Yeah. Well, and some people are difficult, I mean, there are people who are difficult, more difficult than others, or maybe not nice, and you just got to have a thick skin and deal with that too, if you're as the receiver of someone's
Yeah.
words.
Mm.
Hey Becky, who was a musical mentor of yours?
Well, I must say that I learned a lot working with Dave Frischberg. He and I had a duo for 5 years,
Oh, wow.
and
Wow.
it was great because, in a way, we were coming from the same place. When I would, every night, I would bring in new charts that I was learning, and there were a lot of old Billie Holiday songs, and he loved those, and he had been listening to those, you know,
Forever too.
forever. So it wasn't like, what is this? And so we were on the same wavelength as far as that goes. And he's just he was the perfect piano player for me because he's like the whole orchestra. He's the bass down here and the horn section up here, and he doesn't overplay. He leaves a lot of space, which I like, and he was just a joy. And he taught me things just by example. That's how I learn the best. And like, if you do something kind of funny or quirky the first time through, don't do it again. 'Cause that just makes it
Because
worse.
then it's not cool anymore.
No, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cliche. So he's a master of good taste.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I'd like to see if there's anything on YouTube of you guys.
There should
Probably, right?
Well, yeah, there should be.
Because if you played for 5 years, somebody had to take something.
Well,
Well, they've got records out. Becky and Dave have some great records out.
Oh, several? Oh, yeah. I see.
oh, here's one.
He is such a great pianist and accompanist.
Mhm.
Just blows me away. I got to play with him a fair amount, and that was a challenge too at first. I learned a lot from Dave, because the way he plays the piano and the way that I played the bass wasn't working in that setting. And so I learned like play more roots and fifths and leave a lot more open space, sonic space. And the minute I figured it out, it was easy to play with him. But man, Dave Frischberg, what a brilliant guy.
Which I have several here from, what is that? Not a Care in the World. And then I can't read it, something Hope. Let's see. This, oh, Starting Hour or Starlit,
Starlit Hour.
Starlit Hour or what was this one? I don't know. Do you see the screen?
Oh, I'm looking at my own screen.
Yeah, see
Oh, that's a tribute to Frank Lesser.
this one.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Yeah, or this one. Well, I don't know. You tell
No,
me.
that's not Dave Frischberg.
Oh, okay. Because this says. Oh,
Here's Dave Frischberg.
I see. What a song from. What should we play?
Oh, there's so many
Oh, you could look at my screen.
I love. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
We
see
have
a lot of.
That Lady's in Love with You. Say it over and over again. What a Rumba Does to Romance. Let's Get
Yes.
Lost. The Moon of Manakura.
I don't even remember recording that.
Somebody Somewhere.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
Okay, let's do that.
It's a kind of a slow song.
That's cool.
Somebody somewhere wants me and needs me. That's that's very wonderful to know.
Yeah, Becky.
Somebody lonely wants me to care, wants me of all people to notice him there. Well, I want to be wanted, need to be needed, and I'll admit I'm all aglow. 'Cause somebody somewhere wants me and needs me, and that's very wonderful to know. To be wanted, need to be needed, and I'll admit I'm all aglow. 'Cause somebody somewhere wants me and needs me, wants lonely me to smile and say hello. Yes, somebody somewhere wants me and needs me, and that's very wonderful to know. Yes, that's very wonderful to know.
Lovely. Wow. That is great. You know, I have to admit, I did not know that you and Dave had a duo. So that's really nice. And it strikes me that you are a singer who, you know, you sing the melody and but you phrase divinely. And but you're a jazz singer who sings the melody mostly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't feel apologetic for that, do you?
Well, you know,
And the only reason I said that was because you had kind of that look on your face, like, yeah.
these days, you know, you have to scat to be a jazz singer.
Well, I heard you scatting with Nancy and Veronica.
But I like to scat with Dave Tull because he's a great scatter, and he encourages me. He says, just do it with confidence and just think, I meant to do that. So, you know, with his guidance, I take tenuous steps. Now, you teach scatting.
I do, yeah. But I'm the kind of teacher, like Michelle Weir is a really good friend of mine, and we've been friends for years. She is a really interesting teacher. She's really an in-depth teacher, but she's friendly too. So she really makes it friendly and appealing to learn if you're so inclined toward that. And I usually teach a little more just user-friendly, I call it user-friendly scat. You know, when people, you know, I lead them into it really slowly, like if you're singing one note that feels good, okay, sing two notes that feel good. Good, welcome to Scat 101, you know, because I want to make people realize that I think most of the time, and this applies to singers who have been around too, who, you know, I've heard and who have come to me for improvement, they feel like what they're doing isn't good enough. And actually, that's the wrong point of view, in my opinion. The point of view that works is, what note do I want to sing here? What do I love? Oh, that one note is beautiful in this, and I think I'll leave a space there. And getting pleasure out of what comes out of you. Charlie Hayden did that. He was the king at that. He didn't work to dazzle you, you know. He just, it was what he felt the music desired, you know. He was like an arranger that way, you know. So
Yeah.
that's what I feel about scat. I feel like, um, oh, of course, there are things, little tricks and things to practice, but I really see that a lot. I see people, you know, cringing over what comes out, and that's just like the wrong perspective. You know, this perspective is enjoying what's coming out. It's just like, oh, what do I feel like is colorful or feels good there,
I
you know?
can relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I heard you, I mean, what you were scatting was fine. There was no clams or anything like that, you know, it was what was coming out of you, you know.
I want you to ask me who I like today, singing today.
Who do you like today in the singing? What current singer do you like? Or is it the current singer, or who do you listen to today?
I don't know. Well, I really like Nellie McKay.
Nellie McKay. Now that's a name I don't know.
It's
Nellie,
spelled McKay, MCKAY, but it's pronounced Nellie McKay.
oh, that's like Dave McKay. Okay.
And she lives in New York, and she's a ukulele player, a piano player, singer. She's got a terrific voice.
Hmm.
And she's a songwriter. She writes very funny and political songs.
Oh,
She came, she came to Portland and did a solo act, and Tom and I went with Tom's wife, and because I sing some of her songs, and I wanted Tom to see where they came from.
yeah.
So she was she was great, but she's very uncategorizable, and
Ah,
she's done some acting as well, and she's just extremely talented.
oh, we'll have to check her out.
Hmm.
Nellie
She's
McKay.
written lots of songs, and she's written in the pop vein, but still it's not like anything else written. Mm, But it's and I've grasped onto the couple of songs she's written that are sort of jazzy. And she did a tribute to Doris Day. That was one of her CDs. And
Ah,
she's really into animal rights.
ah.
And she's probably 30 something.
Wow. Wonder if she's related to Dave McKay, because he's from Connecticut and he has an extended family
I don't
there.
know. But Dave Frischberg used to know her because,
Oh,
because he's pretty quirky himself, and they met and liked each other a lot. Or she was in the audience one time when he was at Birdland or something.
cool. Tom, were you going to say something before?
Uh, Whatever it was, I forgot. Nellie McKay is great, though. We loved her show.
Yeah.
Cool. There's a
Uh,
singer that I've taken some songs from. I don't know if I'm going to remember her name. She's a harp player, and she was from Boston. Great songwriter, really a great songwriter, and she wrote this beautiful song called "The Nightingales," I think. Who will sing for the nightingales? A really beautiful song that I had combined with, I think I combined it with a song that was written as a string quartet, but a friend of mine wrote really beautiful lyrics for it, Ellen Pagano. And but she's really very what's the word, very showbiz. She'll this was years ago when I first heard about her, but she stands up and plays an electric harp, and she's very vivacious and stuff. She's a really interesting person. I actually, it would be fun to talk to her on the show. Um, and I don't remember her name. It's terrible. The Nightingale. Just so I bet you would like some of her songs.
Okay.
She has some really interesting songs. I'm going to make myself a note to connect you to listen to her. But I don't know her name. But anyway, I'll just say harpist.
Electric harpist.
Electric harpist, right?
Yeah, that's her gimmick. You got to Dave Frischberg always used to say you got to have a gimmick. The electric harp.
Yeah.
And then lately I've been listening to teachers online, vocal teachers, and I've come across Alexis Cole.
I had her on last week.
I missed that.
So smart.
And she's so generous and kind and
Musical and everything. I know. Yeah, I was very impressed with her. And she started that organization, Jazz Voice.
yeah.
Um,
And
um,
she has master classes with guest
yeah,
visitors, and Catherine Russell's someone I just adore
yeah,
as well.
yeah. That's really cool. You know what she told me at the end of our hang? She, I wasn't totally surprised, but so she's living in a cabin in upstate New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she had bought a little cabin for, vacations, right?
Hmm.
And so when all this stuff happened, she decided to move there. And and so apparently it didn't have a washer, dryer, or an outdoor shower. And she said by use of, I think it was the YouTube stuff, or maybe her dad helped her through, but not in person. She plumbed her washer and
Whoa.
an outdoor shower. She had never done it before.
Wow.
But she's smart. She's
Yeah.
smart and she's brave and she's very kind, like you said.
Hmm. Yeah, I did. I watched a master class that she had recently, and she said, well, there was a hurricane going on, and she said, I may lose power, so Becky, you're the host if I lose power.
Oh my God. Well, I've been pleasantly surprised by people either that I knew before and hadn't listened to in a long time, or people I didn't really know before. Um, Another person who I vaguely knew, I mean, I had worked for her, but I really didn't know her music that well, was Laurie Antonioli.
Oh yeah, I've known Lori for years.
Her
Oh,
music.
yeah, I've never met her, but we talked about performing at her school.
I've become a big fan, you know. I mean, I was super impressed with her sound and her music. Um, let's see, another person was Andrea Wolper. I mean, I've known her too, and I've known her singing. She's in New York. She's married to Ken Filiano, Tom. You know him, right? The bass player.
I don't know him, but I know of him. Yeah.
And she also impressed me. Actually, now this was really outside of the jazz realm, but he's actually kind of a jazz singer. Is Mark Jordan, Marc Mark Jordan. So one of my friends on here referred me to hear him, and he is a composer. He lives in Canada. He's a composer, and he's composed all like from Rod Stewart and for the Manhattan Transfer. His songs have literally been on 35 million recordings. I don't even know if
Wow.
that's possible, but anyway, but through Rod Stewart and probably all of those things. But he's an amazing composer,
Hmm.
really beautiful composer. And his singing, he's kind of like a jazz singer, but he sings material kind of like a Bonnie Raitt kind of stuff.
Hmm.
He's really good. You should go. You would love his singing. I'm telling you. He's really, I mean, when I hear him sing, I'm like, yeah, really good. Oh, thank you, Dan. Dan, you are too cool. Dan Davila, is the harpist Deborah Henson Conant? Yes, it is. So, Deborah Henson Conant. Thank you. And Sunny Wilkins sends her love.
Hey, Sonny.
She's starting a Monday kind of podcast. I think it's every 2 weeks. Is that right, Sunny? Every 2 weeks? And it's not specifically geared towards jazz. It's actually more specifically geared towards artists in the Minnesota area. Michigan, sorry.
Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan area. Yeah. So, well, it's been 2 hours.
Right on.
Flies.
It's amazing, huh?
Yeah.
So nice to hang with you guys. I really appreciate you taking a few hours out to hang. And anything you want to tell the audience before we go?
I think we may have another live stream on Sunday, August 30th. Did Randy tell you about that, Tom?
No, which is not unusual, but I can make it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Are we going to start? And we're starting a Monday thing eventually, I think.
Yes, maybe in September, but I don't know how long he has. I don't think he wants to do 2 a week. I don't know how long he's going to continue with his Sunday
I'm
night.
assuming on your Facebook you'll make announcements. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then also, we are going to, they're looking, there's a wonderful jazz club in Phoenix, Arizona called The Nash. It's named after Lewis Nash.
Oh.
And Becky and I have performed there several times, I guess with Randy actually before. And we did a show there a year or so ago with Judy Roberts, who is a wonderful pianist and singer from Chicago. And I was just talking with the Nash guy last week on the phone, and they're considering they're probably going to replay that show we did on their website. They're doing rebroadcasts of certain shows that have occurred at the Nash over the last couple of years. And I think that one is one of the ones that's slated to be rebroadcast again sometime in the next couple of months. So you can keep your eye on the Nash's Facebook page for that. We had a blast with Becky and Judy Roberts and myself and Greg Fishman, who's Judy's husband, who's a wonderful saxophone player.
Cool. When do you foresee your CD being released?
It's hard to know. Just take it a step at a time. We're going to fix the errors this week, and then we'll send it to be pressed. And we have to get a name for the CD. We have to get artwork and all. I have to register the songs, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I'll send you a copy.
Oh boy.
I will do that.
Cool.
It can be found. It'll be able to be found wherever CDs are sold.
Which is weird. Amazon.
My attempt at a joke.
No, that's definitely a joke. That's
Yeah.
kind of like, it reminds me of Jay Clayton's joke. Is anything all right?
Yeah. No kidding.
Okay, you guys. Well, thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, because I don't want to repeat, as I love the word debacle, the debacle from yesterday, I have canceled tomorrow's guest or postponed tomorrow's guest so that the jackhammering in my kitchen won't create havoc. So then on Tuesday, I have Harry Allen.
Oh, nice.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Allen. And then Wednesday, I have Carmen Bradford.
Wow.
Great singer. Thursday is my usual day off. And Friday, Paul Krybik. So
I know him.
Yeah, that's going to be very entertaining. And do you know a singer named Sharon Clark from the East Coast?
Yes.
She's
in the East
really
Coast?
good.
Oh, right. I've heard her with a Dixieland band, if you can believe that.
Wow.
And
She's
she blew me away.
really great. Yeah, she
Oh,
came across my radar and I was like, wow, I gotta have her on.
great.
And then the writer, movie scorer guy, Mark Isham.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so
Hey,
that's
let me make a suggestion for you, just for the future. There's another composer,
mhm,
long lived in LA and has since moved up to Northwest Washington, named Ron Jones.
I know his.
And Becky knows Ron. We've
Yep.
we've uh, recorded at his studio and stayed at his home actually. And Ron wrote the music for Star Trek: The Next Generation, DuckTales, American Dad, Family Guy. He
Oh,
was in LA for many, many
I
years, lived
know.
in Burbank, and he would be he's very entertaining. He would
He's
be a
got lots of
really,
stories.
really great guest. Yeah. I'd be happy to put you in touch with him if you
Oh, I'd
do
love
that.
that. Yeah, I mean, there's so many great people. And speaking of somebody like that, I don't know if you're familiar with the name of David Avram. Sorry, David Amram.
No.
Familiar with the
Oh,
name, but not.
so he's going to be 90. He
Hmm.
lives in New York, and he's like Sheila Jordan,
Oh, wow.
just like not he's not going to stop. And you know what movie he wrote the music for? The Manchurian Candidate, the original.
The
Wow.
original one?
Yes.
Jeez.
And he played with a bunch of super heavyweight jazzers, like super heavyweight. And he was the leader of the Philharmonic for a while. I mean, the guy has done so much. And talk about entertaining and kind of spiritually enlightened, conversation. It really, I'm looking forward to that. He's going to be at the end of the month on the 30th. But yeah, so it's fun. It's really fun. I love doing this. It's just,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
there's no travel involved. You can talk to anyone.
I know. I know it's great. Well, thank you so much. Oh, and for those of you who listening who knew Dave Mackay passed away 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
And so today at 3, I'm hosting a celebration of life for him, and
oh,
it will be
jeez.
on Zoom and live on Facebook as well. So, yeah, if any of you want to attend that, feel free. And and thanks, you guys. Thanks a whole lot.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
It was so fun.
It was a really fun hang. All right, have a great evening.
You too.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Hug that cat for me.
I will.